Welcome back to Oh Wow, That's Why, the show that explains the stuff you didn't even know you were curious about. For the longest time, Antarctica was seen as humanity's last untouched paradise, a pristine chunk of frozen land where nobody could lay claim. But lately, it's become a lot more crowded down there. Countries are scrambling to build research stations, fly flags, and some are even flat out saying Antarctica belongs to us. So, what the heck is going on? Let's talk about the Great Antarctic Land Grab. Back in 2007, Japanese astronaut Mamoru Mori visited Japan's Showa station in Antarctica. When he got there, he said something interesting. It takes just a few minutes to get to space, but it took us days to reach Antarctica. Yep, the place is that remote. Most people don't realize how massive Antarctica is. We're talking 14.2 million square kilometers. That's roughly the combined size of the United States, Mexico, and Argentina. And despite its size, it's remained untouched, largely thanks to a global agreement that no country would claim it. Instead, Antarctica was to be used only for science, research, and tourism. But just because overt land grabs are banned, doesn't mean everyone's following the rules. Let's rewind. For most of human history, people didn't even know Antarctica existed. It wasn't until 1820, and long after the age of exploration had wrapped up, that the first recorded sighting of the Antarctic continent happened. Soon whalers, seal hunters, and a few brave explorers started showing up, leaving human footprints in the snow. But the real rush didn't begin until 1893. That year, British oceanographer John Murray gave a fiery speech at the Royal Geographical Society urging nations to resume Antarctic exploration. And boom, that kicked off a global obsession. Suddenly, everyone wanted a piece of the frozen pie. In 1908, the British declared they had established bases and planted flags in parts of Antarctica. They claimed these areas under the principle of effective occupation. Basically, we were here first, so it's ours now. And just like that, the British claimed the Antarctic Peninsula and nearby islands as colonial territory. Other countries saw this and went, hold up, they can do that? Between 1908 and 1941, 7 countries joined the land grab. Britain, Australia, New Zealand, France, Norway, Chile, Argentina. They each claimed slices of Antarctica using something called the pie slice principle, drawing lines straight down from their coastlines toward the South Pole. It looked like everyone was just cutting a birthday cake. Latecomers like the United States and the Soviet Union didn't claim land, but said they might in the future. Meanwhile, other countries argued Antarctica belongs to all humanity and shouldn't be carved up like leftovers. But these overlapping claims led to chaos. For example, Chile, Argentina, and the UK all claimed the same chunk of land. Argentina once placed flags on Deception Island and Winca Island, only for the British Navy to come by the next year and yank them all down. At one point, Argentine troops even fired shots at a British scientific expedition, forcing them to retreat. Britain responded by raiding Argentine and Chilean facilities, tearing them down and arresting personnel. This wasn't a full-blown war, but let's just say it was spicy. After years of icy tension, literally, the world realized something had to give. By the 1950s, the Cold War was in full swing. Scientific collaboration had ground to a halt, but after Stalin died in 1953, the international science community wanted to rebuild ties. So, in 1957 to 1958, they launched the International Geophysical Year, a global event focused on Earth sciences. And Antarctica was the hottest, coldest spot for research. 12 countries set up more than 60 research stations, attracting over 5,000 scientists. This cooperation inspired something bigger, the Antarctic Treaty. Signed in 1959 in Washington, D.C., it officially turned Antarctica into a demilitarized scientific zone. Here are the treaty's 3 big rules. Peace only. No military activity, no weapons testing. Science for all. Research is open and collaborative. Everyone shares results. Freeze land claims. No new claims. No recognition of existing ones. You can say, Antarctica is mine. All you want, but no one has to listen. The treaty was a game changer. It turned Antarctica into a global science park, and countries began launching collaborative research programs and environmental summits. But like all treaties, there were loopholes. First crack, mineral resources. Antarctica is an ancient continent, full of potential oil, gas, and mineral deposits. While the Antarctic Treaty didn't ban mining, people got nervous. So in 1998, the Madrid Protocol came in, officially banning commercial mining. But here's the thing, scientific exploration is still allowed, and critics worry that's just a loophole for future drilling. Second crack, fisheries. The treaty didn't fully regulate marine resources. Countries like Japan continued whaling operations under the guise of science, even when 24 nations and the EU created the largest marine protected area in 2016. Some key fishing zones were conveniently excluded. Third crack, tourism. Over 100,000 people visited Antarctica last year, a record high. While penguins are adorable, experts say mass tourism can disturb wildlife and pollute fragile ecosystems. Worse, there's no real government to enforce rules since Antarctica has no sovereignty. So yeah, the cracks are showing. In 1978, Argentina flew a 7 months pregnant woman to Antarctica so she could give birth on the continent. Their logic, if the baby is born in a zone claimed by Argentina to Argentine parents, then Argentina can say, see, this is clearly our land, and no one else bought it. But a few years later, Chile went, not a bad idea, and did the exact same thing. Both countries also built small towns and residential zones in Antarctica, trying to establish permanent human presence. Meanwhile, countries like China have been rapidly expanding their footprint. As of today, China has 5 Antarctic research stations: Great Wall, Zhongshan, Kunlun, Taishan, and Qinling, and they're still expanding. Some think these stations are collecting satellite or missile data from nearby regions like Australia and New Zealand. There's no proof, but China's dual-use policy, meaning civilian and military overlap, keeps suspicion alive. Antarctica isn't just a playground for the old superpowers anymore. In 2023, Iran's Navy chief declared that Iran had property rights in Antarctica and planned to raise a flag and build a military base. Turkey has organized 5 Antarctic expeditions in just 4 years and is planning its own research station. India is building its 3rd station by 2029 and plans to launch its first polar research ship. Translation: everybody wants in. Here's a twist: global warming might make Antarctica more accessible. As droughts hit key shipping routes like the Panama and Suez Canals, the Drake Passage near Antarctica has become a popular alternative. Melting ice also means easier drilling and resource extraction. In 2023, Russia discovered massive oil and gas reserves in British claimed territory. How massive? Over 500 billion barrels, more than the combined reserves of Russia, the US, and Iran. That's a lot of black gold sitting under the ice, and it's making countries drool. To most of us, Antarctica means penguins, glaciers, and snowstorms. But to world powers, it represents resources, strategic dominance, and influence. Warming temperatures are making it easier to build infrastructure and send supplies. That makes permanent operations more feasible and tempting. Will someone step out of line, start secretly mining, or worse, bring military equipment? 5 years ago, we'd have said no way. But now, with the war in Ukraine, rising nationalism, and global treaties falling apart left and right, we're not so sure. Will Antarctica remain a peaceful research zone? Or is the next global conflict quietly brewing beneath the ice? Let us know in the comments below. And if you like this video, share it with a friend, because oh wow, that's why is the only show where learning feels like a meme dump.